Right, okay, so let's go through these together. And again, it's really just using the formulas, as you can see, right? So in each case, your P0, right? In each case, your P0 is $10,000, right? Because that's the initial amount. Your R is 0.05, right? It's earning 5% interest, so your R would be 0.05. And your T, well, your T is actually going to be 1 because, T is actually going to be 5 because it's after 5 years. It's really what changes then is your N, how often it's compounded. In the first case, when it's compounded annually, that means it's once, once a year. This is how much you would get. You get $12,762.82. Quarterly, when N is 4, remember, it's P's. Yeah, let me get to the formula again. Here. This is the formula here, right? This is the formula we're using. And again, each time, the only thing that's changing is N, because N is how often it's compounded. Here it's 4, right? This was 1, this is 4. It's making more money, okay? So it looks like if we compound it more frequently, we get more money. That's what it looks like. The amount is going to be higher. Monthly, when N is 12, we get even more money. I mean, it's not much more. I mean, here it looks like it's a little more than $13, but, And here, daily, once a day, we get this amount. So that's what happens here. So if you had to choose, let's say the amount in the account is how much you would get after 5 years, you could probably guess that you would want this amount, right? That's the most amount of money. I mean, I guess there's other factors to consider, like, well, it's not much more than this amount, but still, this is the highest amount. So if it's compounded daily, right, we would get the most amount of money. Now, this is something the book doesn't do, what I'm about to do next. What if we allowed it to compound more and more often? Well, is there a limit, so to say? Or that is, can we figure out the amount in the account then? Well, it turns out you can. It's actually what we have is called continuous compounding. This is basically when it's compounded more and more frequently in a year without bound. It's the same as going back to that N. Let me go back again to this N. You let this N, that's how often it's compounded in a year, right? It's the same as letting this N get larger and larger and larger and larger without bound. Any number you could think of, N is going to be bigger than that. Well, it turns out then the amount you'll have in the account, or the balance that is 2 years later, will be given by this formula. I think some people call this PERT, although with the P0 it might be hard to say that, but A again is the balance T years later. As before, T is time in years. Okay. P0 is the initial amount, the starting amount. R is the percent, the APR, that is, the annual percent rate in decimal form. That should be percent rate. No, excuse me, percentage. But it's the APR in decimal form. But what on earth is that E? This thing? Well, E is actually a special number. It's a number between 2 and 3 that's irrational, meaning you can't write it as one integer divided by another one. And on pretty much any calculator today, there'll be an E button. So you can use a function like this if you wanted to. So we do have an exponential function. It's just that e will represent that base. And again, e is a special number. I mean, how you actually define it and where it comes from, for that, you would need calculus. But again, this is what would happen if it was compounded all the time. Okay? If it was compounded all the time. Okay, so we have that. So as an example of this, let's just say we decided to have the account compounded continuously. You know, again, T is 5, P0 is $10,000. The annual percentage rate R, 5%, so R is 0.05. This is what the amount would be. And this is how much we would get. And I don't think it's that much different than, yeah, it's probably like maybe 22 cents more than compounded daily. So, all right, we're going to have to stop here because we're out of time. Okay, we'll pick up from here on Friday. Okay, someone had a question? Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I'm just kind of confused on why like the percentage is just say like it was 5% for this particular question. Like why is it 0.05 instead of just 5? Because
you have to write it as a decimal in the formula. You have to convert it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, good question. All right, so I think we'll have to stop now. So I'll see everyone on Friday.